Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Teal today with Dow and Canland. We're going to be talking about 3 things to help you with maximizing your potential. I think this is one of the biggest things that happens all the time in the world is people have all this potential, but then they don't know how to tap into it and live up to it. And this is something I definitely struggled with in my teenage years. It was tough to kind of see my potential. And if you can't even see it, it's definitely difficult to hone it. So, with doing these 3 things, I think you will be well on your way to becoming a much more aware and a person that is making consistent progress. Those things are giving back, going the extra mile. Those things are giving back, consistent accountability, and going the extra mile. So with giving back, I think this is huge because giving requires that you have more than just yourself on your mind and you're trying to help out other parties besides just your own party. And I think this is super good. There's a really cool story that Greg Trimble from Lemonade Stand, it's like a marketing company. He talks There's a really cool analogy with this, and that's the idea of being a fountain or a drain. A drain drains out all of the water. You think like how after you take a shower or bath, the drain just like sucks it all up and then it's gone. A fountain, however, continues to spring forth water just continuously and all of that value and everything like that. And because it's continuing to give all of that, that's just what it does. It just keeps giving. And generally, you are either a fountain or a drain. And I think having this mindset of, I'm going to give back, I'm going to help out other people. So the first thing I mentioned was giving back to the world and other people. I feel like we've been given so much. Just to be here at this specific time is quite a blessing. I've been really trying to be a little bit more grateful just each day. I mean, not just be grateful for the big wins, but just be grateful for the small things that I often take for granted. So the first thing I really wanted to talk about real fast was giving back. Giving back requires that you have your mind set on helping other people. So the first thing I really wanted to talk about was giving back. And to give back, you have to have something to give. And you get that thing you give through working on your own life, through succeeding in other endeavors, and then you can give back. So the first thing I really want to talk about today was giving back. So with giving back, I wanted to bring up a quick analogy that I really like, and that's the idea of fountains and drains. So the idea is that a fountain continues to spread its value and its water all the time. You think of like a water fountain, you turn it on, it seems to have all the water in the world, though those are not really a thing during this pandemic. But on the other hand, we have drains. And drains, suck away all the water and bam, it is just gone. And the idea is that there's 2 kinds of people in the world. You got to be a fountain or a drain. And I think this is really important because you can choose to suck up everybody else's joy, or you can choose to create your own and appreciate the little progress that you're making. And I think when you start to just appreciate the progress you're making and kind of take a little bit more ownership for what you're giving out, it will help you to just become a much happier person. So if giving back, I wanted to talk really fast about this analogy of fountains and drains. And the drain is somebody that just kind of sucks up all the value and all of the help for themselves. It's like somebody who, when going to a business meeting, just comes and expects to just get all the stuff out of it without coming prepared to give a lot of value themselves. They're kind of just there to suck up whatever value is being given and not really attend their own or give their own. And I think this comes from like a feeling that you can't give more and that your value is not worth it and you might as well just suck up other people's joy because you can't give your own. And I've been in this spot before. It's a really sad spot to be in. And honestly, the best way to get out of that is by just starting to be a fountain for all the little things that you can, just choosing to be optimistic, choosing to start writing down your ideas in a journal. So then that's starting to compound all those ideas in your mind. And so now you have ideas and benefits from those ideas compounding in your head and not all of these stresses and all these thoughts about yourself that are so untrue, And, I think the cool thing with a fountain is it continues to give and provide value for a really long period of time, and you can count on it to give that value. I've tried to become a fountain for people. So when people ask me like, Dallin, what's on your mind? Or Dallin, how do I solve this problem? I have something that has been working in the back of that fountain for a long time. With any fountain, there has to be a network of pipes, a network of everything going on down there. With a drain, it's just a drain. That's kind of all it is. But it's a wonderful thing because we can choose to be either one of those things at any time. And I think the people that choose to be a fountain more often than a drain will start to really understand their potential a lot more and be like, hey, I think I really should give more of myself to bless the world. I think we saw that a lot so far in this pandemic. I know Pat Flynn gave away a bunch of courses and was continuously trying to help people. How can I provide more value instead of, maybe taking too much advantage of this situation, but just being able to give back so other people can give back. I think that's such a wonderful thing. It does good for your heart. It does good for the world. It does good for everything. And I think that's a fantastic thing you can do, is just to start living more like a fountain than like a drain. And I think in some ways I am more like a drain than a fountain. And it's important to look at what parts of your life you are doing that in different things and be able to just take action. And that goes along with the second thing, which is consistent accountability. You're not going to make like any progress unless you're kind of aware of the progress you are making. And I think this is really awesome with track. With track, you are so aware of how well you are doing and not doing. And it's interesting because it's easy to look at what you're doing right now and be like, oh, I'm not even doing that great, when you compare yourself to how everybody else is doing. But then you remember that you're in this race for yourself. You're in this sport so you can improve and have your own personal growth and epiphanies. And the team is they're a fountain, again, going back to the fountain thing, they're a fountain to help you become a better fountain. I became a fountain of running and from trying to not suck up, but trying to like absorb all the best stuff from my teammates and then give that back to the world. I was always seeking to become a better version of myself, a better runner, a better running fountain, if you will. And that's like one of the best things that a fountain can do, right? Is run and keep running and actually be able to give value. I remember those like fountains from like middle school, and there's like this tiny little trickle. And I think that's better than nothing, better than being a drain. But like whenever you can figure it out, I would get that fixed, and you can give a lot more water and value over time. And kind of going along that same vein, there's some fountains and they just give like tons of value really fast. It might squirt you in the face like a water hose, and that's great too. But I don't know, I think there's patience and there's a pacing to it so you can give the maximum amount of value. But accountability is huge. Last night I spent a lot of time. I finished up another journal. I started in August and just finished it last night. I spent a lot of time just like looking at how I'm doing and being like, okay, so this is what I wanted to do by January. How did I do on that? And, you think of like, I've been watching The Incredibles and some other, just Incredibles 1 and some of 2 recently. And you notice that there's like this continuous sense of mission that they have, and they have to be accountable, because if they're not accountable, then the bad guy is going to get ahead, and they're not going to be able to catch up to them and be able to slow them down. And so they have their off time, but they're also spending a lot of time making sure that they're making that progress and that they're able to grow and everything like that. I think creating like a system that helps you be accountable, people to keep you in touch with, like my roommate Ryan in the background, he's really fantastic. He helps me stay on the right path. And I think having that is so invaluable, having different things that help you keep growing and help you be aware of how far you've come and how far you still have to go. It just gives you that real perspective that you need to start making that progress, because if you know how much you've been able to do already, then it really helps you with continuing to provide stuff, and also not giving the same thing over and over again. One of the funniest like quotes about professional life is, I can't remember what book I read it in, but said like there's some people that they have 20 years of experience, but they've just used the same year of experience over and over again. And I think I've done that to some extent. But overall, I'm really trying to like learn and not settle, not like rest on my laurels, but continue to be accountable and try new things. And again, when I try those things, be accountable for how it goes. Just not take life for granted, because it's definitely not for granted. I've been really humbled recently by just different struggles people have had. I have a roommate who's blind, and there's just all kinds of blessings that you're completely blind to, pardon the pun, until you like see how other people are doing great in their life and they may not have that thing, and just kind of gives you some perspective. So yeah, basically just owning your mistakes, rising up to all the opportunities you have to learn, and just being able to, I think honesty and humility go along really well with accountability, but just accepting all of that as part of your journey to becoming your best self, I think will do wonders for you. And the final one is going the extra mile. With going the extra mile, there's this quote by Zig Ziglar that I really like, and it just says, there are no traffic jams along the extra mile. And this is extremely true. Whenever we do see a traffic jam, it's usually because there's a bunch of people who are not going the extra mile. They're probably just waiting. They're like super interested in a car crash or something that happened, and they're not moving forward. They're actually slowing everybody down. I wanted to talk really fast about one of my friends named Moret. He was on my track team, and he was super fast. We also had a gym class together, and I would sometimes like chase him sometimes just to like, I don't know why, we just got to chase each other sometimes. And he was so fast. Like he was able to accelerate so quickly. Like even though he wasn't like super fast at sprinting, at the same time, he was also a super good distance runner, and he just knew how to control his speed. He had good accountability. He was a fountain, not a drain. And he also just went the extra mile. I remember as early as sophomore year, he was starting, well, that's when I started track. He started before me, I'm sure. But he started having his dad, he started having, somebody make him like extra workouts. And so when we were doing like our little workouts, like running 2 miles and 8 100s or 8 200s or whatever, he was running like 3 miles at this pace and was really, really pushing himself. And you do that enough consistently over time, and now, he's ran in a college, and he's been able to go beyond what any of my teammates did, and that's because he's living up to his potential. I think I have lived up to a good portion of my potential with running, but not all of it. And I'm going to need to continue to be a fountain and continue to be accountable for my progress. And again, go the extra mile for this. Another quick example of this comes from Peter Vidmar. He was an Olympic athlete a while ago. He gave a talk in a general conference, which is a semi-annual like gathering that happens all over the world. It's happening again in April pretty soon. Just a lot of good uplifting talks and stuff about, Christ, and about just living your best life. But he talked about how he wanted to give more than all the other athletes, and he didn't do that by doubling his workout time. He just gave 15 more minutes. So while the other people were training 6 hours, he was training 6 hours 15 minutes. And over time, that adds up a ton. Kobe did this as well, and it really does start to add up. I mean, with me, I've been trying to like be consistent with this podcast, and I'm getting kind of close to 100 episodes, which is insane. And not only that, but I'm getting better at writing down scripts, being able to talk on the fly, and be able to provide more value for other people. I think this is super important because, you know, a lot of people, they feel love in different ways, but a lot of people feel love just from being thought about and being cared about. And recently I had a friend from my mission, Jacob Lewis, who's listened to this podcast a pretty good amount. He told me he would listen to it while he was working. I really appreciate him tell me that. He dropped me off a letter and I read it. It was really nice of him to do that. It was a nice letter, and that's going the extra mile, you know, showing people that you care by the things that you do, the things that you say, or the things that you don't do and the things you don't say. Those are all really good ways to go the extra mile. And I could talk about a ton of examples because I really just try to apply this to every single part of my life, whether it's meeting with teachers or really anything. I'm always trying to go the extra mile. And then there's other things where, because I'm going so hard on one thing, it's hard to go hard in the other thing. But again, you just be accountable and you go back to what you're actually outputting, what you're giving, because it all just kind of comes together. And I think that if you are able to embrace these like 3 things of just becoming more of a fountain, being a lot more accountable for what you do and what you don't do, and just continuing to go the extra mile, however that looks right now, I think that will add up to a really wonderful life for you. And hopefully you will live up to your true potential. But I would add this at the end. Do not expect like what somebody says and what this little formula provides to give you everything you need. This is just a starting point. Once you are good at those things, you might discover some superpowers of your own or some ways that you've learned to unleash your potential, and you need to keep doing those things that you know work for you. Some things, they don't work as well for other people, and so when you find some of the things that work for you, you need to continuously do them and try them. For me, I've learned creating content is a really good way for me to stay accountable to myself and keep learning and growing, because it requires me to dig and to try new things and to put myself out there consistently. With that all said, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Yield Today. I'm trying to do a lot more interviews, but we're probably still got another solo episode or 2, which I love doing, but probably do a couple more of those, and then we'll really start to kind of change gears. We'll really, after that, probably do a bunch of interviews in a row, and I will keep you guys in the loop. There's a lot of good stuff happening, and I'm excited for it to all start happening. But yeah. But yeah, just staying optimistic, going to keep going. It's Monday, and so far the day's off. But yeah, as always, I really hope this episode was helpful for you in some way. Don't forget to follow the podcast and review it on Apple Podcasts so we can reach more people. I would really appreciate that. And if you need any awesome show notes, I try to put a lot of work into the show notes. They're all in the show notes. And I'm going to try to get them on a website too at some point, and it will be awesome. So thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to yield today, and it will be a better tomorrow. Okay.